Hello, and welcome back to the studio. I'm Dr. Wiggo, and today we're going to talk about what Apple was up to in January. It's not a lot, but they did some stuff. So first we'll talk about the new AirTags. Exciting. Then we'll talk about Creator Studio, which is a little more controversial. And then we'll talk about the financial results for the fourth quarter of 2025, which for Apple is the first quarter of 2026 because they do a staggered fiscal year, which is smart because Christmas is their biggest selling season, so it's good to have that as the first quarter, which makes your year look good. So let's start with the new AirTags, which I was supposed to have one here to show you, but if you haven't been watching the news, there's been a lot of snow and ice, and I have been iced into my house for a week now, and so I couldn't go to the Apple store to buy them, and I couldn't have one delivered, so I don't have an AirTag to show you. Not that there's a lot to show, because the new ones look exactly like the old ones. They're the same size and shape, but they're different on the inside. What they've done with the new AirTags is updated the chips inside so it has an expanded finding range using the ultra-wideband chip, which is in the iPhone 17 line and a bunch of other products. So the precision finding range is now 50% farther, and it's now available on the Watch 9 and Ultra 2, as well as all the latest iPhones and watches and stuff. And they've upgraded the Bluetooth, which further expands the range at which they can be found by other iPhones, when they're out lost in the world and other iPhones can see them and tell Apple. They also have a new speaker, which is 50% louder, so it can be heard twice as far away. And with share item location, 50 airlines now accept share item location links. And SITA says using AirTags has reduced baggage delays by 26% and unrecoverable luggage by 90%. So with 50 airlines, you don't have to track the thing down yourself. You just share the thing with them and they'll go find it. And more airlines will be falling in line with this. Back in the old days, Lufthansa said AirTags violated their policies and you couldn't use them on their planes. But the best news is they're still just $29 a piece or $99 for a 4-pack. If you need new AirTags, now's the time to buy them. They still have the crappy little CR2020 whatever batteries. If they were rechargeable, they'd be really amazing. I guess they're saving that for AirTags 3. Coming 5 years from now because it's been 5 years since they last updated them. The other thing Apple launched at the end of January was the Creator Studio bundle. Final Cut Pro, Logic Pro, Pixelmator Pro, Motion, Compressor, and MainStage all bundled together for $12.99 a month or $129 a year. Or, and this is the real deal, for students it's $299 per month or $29.99 per year. And with most Apple services, you get 3 months free with the purchase of an iPad or a Mac. As much as everyone hates the Adobe subscription model, well, now Apple has adopted it. Does it make sense? If you buy these things separately, Final Cut Pro is $300, Logic Pro is $200, Pixelmator Pro is $500, Compressor is only $50, and MainStage is only $30. But that's a grand total of $630, which is a lot of money. Again, for students, $200. So if you're a student, you might be better off buying them all because it's a lifetime deal. You'll get updates and everything for all of time. But Apple thought of that and said, well, wait, we'll give you another reason why you want to buy them. They have snuck in enhancement to Pages, Numbers, Keynote, and Freeform that will not be available to people who don't pay for the bundle. So if you don't pay, you don't get all these content library updates and AI extra features with the free ones that come with your iPad and Mac. So basically, Apple's figured out a way to try to get you to pay for Pages, Numbers, Keynote, and Freeform to get all the cool new stuff. I'm mixed on this. For students, it's a fantastic deal, $299 a month. But for everybody else, it's another damn subscription. And don't we have enough subscriptions? And $12.99 a month seems cheap for all the stuff you get. But do you actually use all those programs? I don't. I don't use Final Cut Pro. I use DaVinci Resolve. I don't use Logic Pro because I'm not a musician. Pixelmator Pro is like Photoshop, maybe? Compressor, MainStage. These are not products I use. But again, if you're a student, you may want to look into this bundle. And if you're not a student, you still may want to look into it because it is a deal. You don't have to come up with $630 up front. You just pay $12.99 a month. What if you only need these products for like a couple of weeks? You can sign up for a month, use them, and then cancel your subscription. You won't be able to use the product anymore, but if you're done with it, who cares? Moving on to Apple's big news for January, they released their financial results for the quarter ending December 31st. and it was a whopper. 16% revenue increase overall over the same quarter of 2025, 12% revenue increase in the Americas, 13% in Europe, 38% in China. They love the iPhone 17 Pro. 5% Japan, 18% Asia Pacific. But that's not all. Their operating income was up 18% also, and that's pretty good. And I calculated based on the things that they said in the 10Q report that they filed with the SEC that the operating income would have been up 26% without the tariffs. Because they have a 10% tariff on everything they get from China, which is almost everything. A lot of stuff's being made in Vietnam now, but the tariffs did make a dent in their operating income. It was still good. And their operating income was up 11% in the Americas, again, 25% without the tariffs, 22% in Europe, 44% in China, 7% in Japan, and 24% Asia Pacific outside of Japan. So Apple had a whopping good Christmas season around the world. Now, breaking down their revenues by segment, the iPhone was up 23%, and primarily driven by the Pro models, which in the earnings call, Tim Cook said sell so well that they're having supply chain problems making them fast enough. So they could have made even more money if they'd been able to make them faster. The Mac's revenues were down 7% year over year. The iPad was up 6%. Wearables and accessories were down 2%. Maybe that's why we might get a new HomePod or HomePod with a screen or something soon. Services were up 14%. And what is Creator Studio but another service for them to get more money into services? And why would they want more money out of services? Well, let's look at their gross margins. In this most recent quarter, the gross margin for their products was 40.7% versus 39.3% for the previous year. But services gross margins are 76.5% versus 75% for the previous year. Overall, that's 48% versus 46.9%. So services is basically all profit, right? It's just software, so there's no cost of goods sold like there is for hardware products. So they make a lot of money on services, and services is where the action is. They're going to make everything a subscription. I hope they don't go as far as the car companies who are trying to make you pay a subscription to have your heated seats. When Apple starts doing that, that's when I will abandon ship. Although, where will I go? Apple had a ho-hum January as far as we're concerned because we were all waiting for a new Mac or a new Mac Pro or a new MacBook or a new something, and we got AirTags and the Creator Studio. But they made a lot of money in the fourth quarter of 2025, which was the first quarter of 2026 for Apple. Yeah, I know, it's confusing. So that was Apple's January. Not a lot to talk about, but some really good financial news. Of course, their stock fell right after their earnings came out. It's always the way. Investors wanted more. I don't think they can get much more. But there were a lot of other things said in the earnings call, like they said that they don't expect the rising prices of memory to affect them that badly because they've got the long-term contracts. It will hit them eventually, but for now they're in pretty good shape. So we should be able to see cool new stuff. And as I said in this video about Apple's 2025, they already charge outrageous prices for memory, so they can probably absorb a bit of loss, especially looking at these margins I just showed you. So that was Apple's January. I don't have a lot this week because I've been iced in and I haven't been able to go anywhere or do anything. Send food. No, I'm fine. So that's it for today. Thanks for stopping by. See you next time. Bye-bye. Now I got to go finish playing my game, which I'll be reviewing soon. Thanks for staying to the end. Bye-bye.